In a bustling city, a heavily pregnant woman was slowly making her way along the sidewalk, struggling with every step. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness overwhelmed her, and her body instantly lost balance. She quickly reached out her hands, trying to steady herself, but to no avail. It was clear that this was a bout of dizziness caused by low blood sugar. In an effort to protect the baby in her womb, she fought with all her strength to remain standing, refusing to let herself collapse. But in the end, she slowly sank to the ground. For an expectant mother on the verge of giving birth, this was not just a threat to herself, but also a grave danger to her unborn child. If she were to lose consciousness due to low blood sugar, the baby could be at risk of oxygen deprivation. At that moment, she was completely alone, with no one by her side. She lay helplessly on the ground, waving her arms, hoping that a passerby would come to her aid. However, it was the middle of the afternoon, and the streets were nearly empty, with only a few cars passing by. She lay there in pain, weakly moving her arms, refusing to give up even the slightest chance of survival. Her condition was deteriorating, her consciousness fading, yet she struggled to stay awake, fearing that if she succumbed to the darkness, she might never wake up again. At this life-or-death moment, a car slowly approached. The driver noticed the woman on the ground and cautiously slowed down to assess the situation. However, upon realizing that she was a heavily pregnant woman, he hesitated, perhaps afraid of getting involved in trouble. Without even calling for help, he quickly drove away. Shortly after, an electric scooter rode by. The rider ignored the woman's plea for help, deliberately turning his head away as if doing so would lessen his guilt. Cars continued to pass by, one after another, yet no one was willing to stop and offer assistance to this helpless woman. Had society truly become so indifferent? Had people's hearts grown so cold? Perhaps they were merely afraid of getting involved in unnecessary trouble, and since there were no other witnesses around, they chose to walk away in apathy. The pregnant woman's life was hanging by a thread. There was no time to waste. Just then, a white car noticed the woman lying on the ground, waving weakly for help. The driver hesitated as he stepped out of the vehicle. Upon realizing that she was barely breathing, he wavered for a moment, then hurriedly withdrew his foot and drove away at full speed. The sight was heartbreaking. More and more cars passed by, each driver seeing the woman in distress, yet none stepped forward to help. She lay on the ground, her heart filled with anxiety and helplessness. Overwhelmed by despair, she buried her face in her hands and wept silently. At the critical moment, an orange off-road vehicle sped toward her. The driver immediately slammed on the brakes when he saw the lone pregnant woman. Without hesitation, he jumped out of the car and rushed to her side, asking about her condition with deep concern. Seeing her pale face and weak breathing, he quickly opened the car door, carefully lifted her inside, and raced to the hospital. Let us extend our highest respect to this kind-hearted man. His actions deserve our utmost admiration. To those reading this, if you were in the same situation, what would you do?